There are many great and popular beach and resort destinations to choose from around the world. Among them is the island of Bali, Indonesia. Of the nearly 14 million travelers who visit the Southeast Asian nation of Indonesia in 2024, 45% of them made their way to the place called the Island of Gods. A huge portion of the visitors to Bali comes from a country that makes up one continent, Australia. Each day, thousands of Australians arrived after a 3 to 8 hour flight from major cities in Australia at Bali's main airport, Denpasar Negara Rai International Airport. With numerous flights per day and its close vicinity to Australia compared to other destinations, Bali is an attraction for Australians on holiday or those who have invested into property on the island. Because Bali is a top go-to destination for Australians, airlines including the Australia-based carriers have capitalized on this market. So in this video, we'll take a look at how Bali became a main attraction for Australians and how the airline, including those based in Australia, are serving this travel and tourism market. Before getting into how Bali became a major spot for Australian tourists, we'll take a look at the history of Bali's tourism industry. Bali rose to become a popular destination for Australians during the mid and second half of the 20th century, though global interest for the island started before World War II. As part of the Dutch East Indies, the Dutch colonial administration in the early 1900s began promoting the area as an exotic destination after photos taken by German Gregor Kraus sparked interest from around the world. Further interest in Bali would continue to grow as the island attracted artists, writers, and celebrities, including American actor Charlie Chaplin in the early 1930s. Then the first hotel for visitors, the Kuta Beach Hotel, was opened by Robert and Louise Koch, an American couple living in Bali, in 1936. Following World War II and Indonesia's independence from the Netherlands, the newly free Indonesian government promoted tourism as a way to help grow the nation. Over the next few decades, the country would make investments to modernize and build new infrastructure projects related to the emerging tourism industry. Among the projects included the airport known today as the Denpasar Negara Rai International Airport. Formerly known as Tuban Airport, international air services at Denpasar was inaugurated in 1966. This would help Denpasar and the island of Bali accommodate the boom of tourism that would take place over the next few decades, especially from Australia. Bali would become a major attraction initially for Australian surfers, and over the next few decades, Australia would become a major source for tourists to the island. According to the Central Statistics Agency for Indonesia, or the BSP, Bali welcomed over 6 million travelers from around the world. Based on the BSP data and the Australian consulate in Bali, the number of visitors to Bali makes up 45% of the total visitors to the entire country of Indonesia, which is at around 13.9 million. Over the 6 million visitors to Bali, around 23%, or around 1.3 million, came from Australia. From Australia, the country's own travel statistics show Indonesia, especially Bali, is a top attraction. According to the Australian Bureau of Statistics, or ABS, Indonesia overtook New Zealand as the top outbound destination for its citizens during the fiscal years of 2023 to 2024, with around 1.3 million Australians going to Indonesia during that period. Outbound travel to Indonesia makes up 14% of the total number of Australian travelers who went overseas, which is roughly around 11 million, and the Southeast Asian nation was the top international destination for travelers from 5 Australian states and territories: Victoria, South Australia, Western Australia, Tasmania, and Northern Territory. Bali is where the majority of the Australia and Indonesia flights arrive and depart on the Indonesian end. Based on data from Flight Radar 24, of the 260 round-trip flights between Australia and Indonesia, the overwhelming majority, or around 235, are operated between 8 cities in Australia: Perth, Darwin, Cairns, Brisbane, Gold Coast, Adelaide, Sydney, and Melbourne, to Denpasar. One could assume the top origin of flights to Bali would be from one of the bigger cities such as Melbourne and Sydney. Instead, the top origin is Perth in Western Australia, with 5 airlines operating a total of 70 weekly flights to Bali. Following Perth are Melbourne with 5 airlines operating 57 flights, Sydney with also 5 airlines but less, around 48 flights, Brisbane with 3 airlines operating 25, and Adelaide with 3 airlines operating 14 weekly. Flights are operated by Indonesia-based Transnusa, Batik Air, Indonesia Air Asia, along with the Malaysia-based Batik Air Malaysia, and lastly the Australia-based Virgin Australia, Qantas, and Jetstar. The airline leading in terms of capacity and routes between Australia and Bali is Jetstar, Qantas's budget subsidiary. Jetstar operates flights from 7 cities in Australia: Perth, Darwin, Cairns, Brisbane, Adelaide, Sydney, and Melbourne, to Bali, offering a total weekly seat capacity of over 18,000. Following Jetstar is Indonesia Air Asia with its 4 routes from Perth, Darwin, Cairns, and Adelaide, and a weekly seat capacity of over 9,700. Following Indonesia Air Asia is Virgin Australia with 4 routes from Melbourne, Sydney, Brisbane, and Gold Coast with a weekly capacity of nearly 7,000. Jetstar is a major part of the Qantas Group's operations in Indonesia. Combined with Qantas's daily flights to Jakarta from Sydney and Melbourne, the Australian airline group operates a total of 122 weekly flights between Australia and Indonesia. Of the 122 Australia-Indonesia flights by the Qantas Group carriers each week, 108 weekly flights with a combined capacity of over 20,000 are operated to Bali alone. Jetstar carries the majority of the weekly flights and capacity, while Qantas focuses its operation from Sydney and Melbourne. Currently operating from 7 cities in Australia, Jetstar will further increase its presence at Denpasar with the addition of new routes from the Gold Coast starting August 1 and Newcastle, just north of Sydney, starting October 21st. By the end of the year, Jetstar alone will be operating flights to Bali from 9 cities in Australia. The current slate and the further additional flights to Bali will give more options for Australians to travel to what has been their go-to destination. While home to over 26 million people, Australia is one of the most isolated places on Earth in the Southern Hemisphere. It is at least a 3 to 4 hour flight to cross the Tasman Sea by plane to the nearest country, New Zealand. Then there is Indonesia and Papua New Guinea, which is located north of Australia. Among the Indonesian islands is Bali, which is conveniently located at the south-central part of Indonesia and can be reached with a 3 to 8 hour flight from most Australian cities. With services provided by low-cost carriers, travel to Bali is not only a convenient escape, but a great destination for many Australians. As a result of the travel demand between Australia to Bali, airlines, especially the Australia-based Qantas Group with its mainline Qantas and budget subsidiary Jetstar, have capitalized on the market with multiple flights per day to the island from several cities in Australia. That's all for now. I definitely hope you enjoyed this video. This has been another edition of Flights in Asia, highlighting the news and updates from the aviation and travel scene in the Asia Pacific. Thank you for watching and have a great day.